Hey kids! I am Dad. Welcome to the Dead End Inn. Today I received mail from my father. He is one of the more ambitious types. When I told him that I wanted to open up a tavern, he was anything but happy. It's a dead end, he said. Vending machines will take over your job and you will land on the street, he said. But look at me now, Dad. Look at me. However, he wanted me to become a doctor. That's a dead end, I told him. Why would you treat people with costly medicines and long treatment plans if a cleric or even a paladin could just high-five your patients to health? You will land on the street, I said. Or in my tavern. But he was right. I came into a dead end. A dead end inn! We never spoke since. He traveled around the world to study diseases, and today he sent me an excerpt of his book. Since he's my father and he will not sue me if I share it, I hope at least, I will share it with you today. So may I present you Dr. Dead's Compendium of DnDiseases, a collection of strange diseases. So sit down, take off your top, and grab your weird doctor thing that deals 1d4 cold damage on hit. We are in for some brand new research directly supported by my old pups, Dr. Dead.
Even though the following homebrew content is handcrafted by a self-proclaimed brewer expert, the brew is not play-tested and may result in a total annihilation of your player party and or the destruction of any balancing prior to the implementation of the brew. Please enjoy the brew with caution and at your own risk.
Diseases in D&D are like the rings in D&D. Kinda basic, mostly boring, and there are far too few of them. I solved the problem of the rings in an earlier video. Now I laid my unwashed hands onto the diseases. I am proud to present you this compendium. If you like it, I will continue it, and maybe sometimes this compendium will become a real book. Maybe. So what's in this compendium, you ask? 5 diseases that are complex and unique. A system to cure diseases that is more complex than just to spam lesser restoration. 5 items to cure diseases within that cure system alongside a crafting recipe for all of them. And a guideline to implement real-world illnesses into the cure system. So let's dive in, starting with the cure system.
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
The problem with diseases is that lesser restoration is an automatical death sentence to every disease and would make every doctor lose his job in an instant. And the worst part, you don't even have to know what the patient has to cure it. So I made the curing of diseases more complex. Deadlier, more complex, or just further advanced illnesses require greater healing skills. I implemented some alternating rules. Number 1, lesser restoration is now upcastable. Number 2, lay on hands now doesn't heal any diseases by spending 5 hit points. 5 hit points. Number 3, same for the Mercy Monk's vaccinating fist bumps. You must now spend more key points for more advanced illnesses. The last one, number 4. Disease curing items now don't cure any disease but need to check a rarity requirement. Harder to cure illnesses require a higher item rarity. But more on that later. Now here's the system. Every illness or stage of an illness comes with its own cure requirements. In the column cure, SL/LOH/key/item. This stands for spell level /lay on hands /key point /item. So if you have a character with a cold or a rash, the column could say 2nd 15 3 C. So you could cure him with a standard 2nd level lesser restoration. You could spend 15 lay on hands hit points, use 3 key points, or a common disease curing item. If you have a near dead peasant with final stage tuberculosis, the cure requirements could look like this: 5th 35 9 VR, which means you get it. VR stands for very rare. That's the system. It's simple, but gives enough complexity to make diseases more impactful. Before we now look at the illnesses my father studied, let's look at their cure. Again, a small but rich feature. With the help of alchemy supplies or even a herbalism kit if your DM allows it, you could craft a cure for a specific illness. You could use the original source of the infection to produce a cure for your malaria patient, for example a mosquito. Or you always have the option to use the blood of your patients to produce a cure, which makes the medicine check slightly harder, but works just as well. You can craft a specific medicine in every rarity level. The higher the rarity, the harder the check, and the longer the production time, ranging from 1 hour to 1 week. A quick and easy system, but it works wonders for a character who wants to feel like a real doctor. Enough of the little mechanics around the juicy core. What's up with the illnesses? The last pandemic wasn't enough. I know you want more. No problem. Let's look what my father wrote. The radiant rose sickness. A wicked flower, brown head, dried look. It doesn't feast on sunlight, but on radiant energy, the kind of radiant energy produced by the godly folk. This flower sprouts in churches and holy sites and feasts on the radiance left behind by the godly rituals. Its pollen, or rather its seeds, which form yellow pollen like clouds around the roses, is what terrifies the humanoids. Once inhaled, the little seeds start to germinate inside the body for roughly 4 days. Then they sprout tendrils, which grow alongside the nerves of the infected host and climb up to its brain. This growing causes muscle spasms and immense pain while the nerves get strangled by the plant. This growing process lasts 3 days, in which the creature suffers the paralyzed condition for 3 days straight, convulsing and shivering. After that, a 7-day period happens in which the creature doesn't suffer any symptoms and feels relieved. After the 7th day, the plant starts to release its own pollen seeds, which blow up the creature's body. It gets weaker and weaker. It gains the poison condition and gains 1 level of exhaustion every 8 hours, while it can't regain any levels of exhaustion through resting. A sure death sentence if no skilled healer is near. In this phase you need a 6th level lesser restorations, a 11th level paladin or mercy monk, or rare medicine to stop the disease from killing the patient. If he dies, a bush of roses sprouts out of his corpse and releases more infectious pollen. I shall note that if the infected creature is a creature infused with radiant energy like a cleric, paladin or a radiant soul sorcerer, the stages of the disease happen almost twice as fast, because the plant can feast on the radiance. A truly horrifying plant, but a nice way to spice up your abandoned churches. Next, the gill rash. We can really be thankful we can buy bottled water.
A bottle of water?
With fresh, clean water. Dirty water is a surefire way to get you some sick illnesses, among other things, gill rash. If you infect yourself with it through ingestion or a wound, a dark rash starts to appear. It's wet and smells fishy. And believe me, you want it wet. If the rash gets dry, it starts to hurt and itch really badly. From here on out, every week you're surprised with some new fishy symptoms. Week 2, you grow webs on your extremities, which makes you a better swimmer, but honestly, also a weirdo. Week 3, more rashes, scaly ones, more things to keep wet. Week 4, difficulty breathing, you feel weak and constantly out of breath, and suddenly in week 5 you gain the ability to breathe underwater. Cool, but also, weird. But then it gets complicated. Week 6, breathing on land? Not anymore. Somewhere in your body you have grown full functional gills and your lungs stopped working in the intended way. What a transformation, you're now a fully functional underwater creature. Then the acclimation phase starts. 4 weeks from here you're still considered sick and can be cured. But after the 4 weeks, the disease settles, which is horrifying. It doesn't count as a disease anymore. You're a healthy creature again. Just a different creature. A really terrifying thought. And all that from a simple rash. So go to the doctor, for God's sake. Mom, go to the doctor with that rash. By the way, most water-based races are immune, sea elves and stuff. Next! Devil's Combustion! It's a subtle one with a mysterious origin. It's almost symptom-free. You just get a little bit more resistant to heat and a little bit more vulnerable to cold. Most will not even notice anything. This stage lasts from 1 week up to 2 years or even longer. And then suddenly, on a nice sunny day, sitting down with your father on a bench in the park, that fucker goes boom! Boom! His body sprouts flames and he's transformed into a mindless flame devil zombie thing and starts to lash at you, setting everything around him on fire.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
Does it sound familiar? Does it? Oh yeah! That's why its origins isn't explained too well. We have to wait for further seasons before this compendium entry can be updated. But that's the Devil's Combustion, inspired heavily by the spontaneous combustion from Fire Force. Also, I made 2 simple stat blocks for the infernal creatures. It's your playground if you're an experienced DM. You can think of your own source why the disease exists. Tieflings are immune. Maybe it's all a conspiracy. Maybe. Oracle fever. It's a fever, but oracle. Listen, this one is a perfect story hook, or in general, a really amazing story device. A creature that suffers any fever can enter into an oracle fever. During this time, the suffering creature mumbles endlessly predictions of the future from a random creature on the same plane, and those predictions are all 100% spot on. There will be many predictions for random animals or random people, but creatures suffering the fever have a tendency to predict the future of creatures they saw, knew or love. The oracle phase lasts 1 week and ends in death. If you want to cure a creature of the fever, you better act quickly or it may result in massive brain damage. So time is brain, as we say in the medical profession. If a creature gets cured from the disease, it must succeed on a con save or suffers heavy brain damage that manifests as a similar effect as the feeble mind spell. So a creature's brain gets fried. They can't understand you, they can't talk. They're a walking sack of potatoes. And with every day in the oracle phase, the con save gets harder. But maybe he will predict something about you. Maybe you should wait 1 more day before you administer the medicine. Or, I mean, he's a filthy peasant. Nobody will really miss him, right? Maybe you should wait another day. Or 2. You see the dilemma? Yeah, I love it. That were 4 out of 5 of the diseases in my father's compendium. The last one I'm so proud of. It's really gruesome, but complex and also amazingly interesting. I love it. So may I present you proudly the Obsidian Thorn sprout. Another disease from a wicked plant. This time, a tree. Its branches leafless and pointy like spears or curved and sharp like scythes. Scythes. Its branches leafless and pointy like spears or curved and sharp like... This thing I can't pronounce. Its bark forms flakes which cover every branch. If you sting yourself at the tree, these flakes remain in the wound and kickstart a gruesome process. If you fail the initial con save, you're infected with Obsidian Thorn growth. The flakes will germinate in your body and start to grow branches. These branches grow outwards and pierce anything in their path. The effects differ from case to case, but in every case it's a long and painful process. To the mechanics! Every month you enter a new thorn growth stage and must roll on a thorn growth table to determine the effects of the disease. A simple dice roll determines if your liver, heart or brain gets pierced by a thorny branch and what effect that has on your body. There are 8 stages which last 1 month each. At the beginning of each stage, you roll on a corresponding thorn growth table. You can change the duration of the stages to 1 week or even 1 day if you want to speed up the process. In stage 1 and 2, you roll on an early thorn growth table, depending on the body part in which the initial infection happened. So if you stung yourself in your hand, you roll on the early thorn growth table, arms. If you stung yourself on the leg, you roll on the leg table. And if you stung yourself anywhere else, you roll on the torso table. These 3 tables cover widely different effects. We have everything: pierced ankles, elbows and hips, stiffened spines and perforated blood vessels. Which means movement speed reductions, disadvantages and even the loss of an arm's functionality. But it's not all bad. If you roll lucky, you can obtain a thorn weapon, which can be used to make unarmed attacks using the thorn that pokes out of your forearm. But be cautious. Or not. If you hit the creature with a thorn weapon, you could infect them with the thorn sprout too, spreading the disease. You roll a d4 in stage 1 and a d6 in stage 2. In stage 3, everybody switches to another table unrelated to their initial point of infection, the severe thorn growth table. A table with 20 rows full of agony. We have pierced livers, hearts and brains, ruptured nerves and internal bleedings. Which means disadvantages on saving throws, ability checks and attack rolls, chronic conditions, vulnerabilities, reduced health and even the loss of the ability to attune to a magic item. Stage 3 starts again with a d4. Stage 4 goes up to a d6, stage 5 a d8, and so on. As soon as you roll a As soon as you roll a d8 in stage 5, you have the chance of an instant death roll. And I know what you think, but you're wrong, you cheater. If you get revived after an instant death roll, you don't come out with no consequences. You actually suffer 2 symptoms from the tables, specified in brackets by the instant death roll itself. This is a worst case scenario and gets more likely to happen the higher the dice you roll. If you survived until the last stage, stage 8, and you roll a d20, that's the point where you should pray to the dice gods.
Oh, I left for a while, but...
If you roll a 20, you become one with the thorns. You can ignore 1d4 of symptoms you suffer, choose a thorn weapon which even deals an additional damage die, and you gain a special once per long rest thorn AoE attack, like the guy from Prototype. If someone remembers that game. I can imagine a cult which uses the Obsidian Impaler to purposefully infect their young warriors to find the one which can tame the thorns, which then becomes the leader of the group. Yeah, that would be a cool antagonistic force. Oh, by the way, characters with at least 3 levels in Druid can roll twice if they have to roll a symptom and then choose the lesser evil. So maybe give it a try. That was the Obsidian Thorn Sprout, my baby. And also that's the current end of the Compendium of DnDiseases by my father, Dr. Dead. If you liked it, more will follow. I can imagine feats, spells, subclasses and other stuff that could find its place in my father's compendium. So please show me if you liked it by liking the video and commenting on it. Also treat it like a disease and share it with your friends. Visit the download link in the description to download the compendium for yourself. I thank you very much for watching till the end. I will now go and get me fucking vaccinated. That shit outside is scary.